Hello everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much everybody for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much to everybody who is watching this video on YouTube, and thank you so much if you're listening in the podcast. Today is Wednesday, January the 22nd, 2025. I wanted to come here and share my thoughts about what happened yesterday with Donald Trump and the new president-elect and vice president when they were at the church, and everything that happened there, because I know everybody's talking about it. And I think it's interesting that something like that will happen. But first, I do apologize if you hear the noise. We're going through a cold time here. I mean, I know it's January, but it's very, very cold here in Connecticut. And just as I was getting ready to start this video, the heater decided to jump into because it's very cold. But I just wanted to come and share my thoughts about this. So, in case you didn't know, there was a bishop that did I was watching the whole thing, the whole ceremony when they went to the church for National Prayer Day service. That was yesterday. And I watched the whole thing. And when I heard this bishop speak and say everything that she said, okay, it reminded me of one thing. You know how many times I'm laughing because we see it all the time in the regular Christian church. We see it all the time how, even like in Bible stories, right? Because this day is all about comparison, right? And giving your opinion. And specifically, let's just say, it's something that I noticed a long time ago. And I always had a problem with it because I don't understand why, if you say you're going to go and teach the Bible, right? If you say you're going to give a sermon about, a service in the church to talk about God and to talk about this, you specifically, you use it to point fingers at somebody, and to point fingers and to kind of like just grill somebody basically on their decisions. And I always had a problem with that. And the reason that I say that you see that very often in churches is because when I used to go to a very small church, it was very, very small. And I remember when there's a small church, I know it happens in big churches too. When there is a small church that you go to, gossip is just inedible. It's so crazy, right? And gossip, you guys, gossip is so dangerous, right? But we see it so often. We see it like it's nothing in the churches, It's like, and what do they say? And like you see the little groups gathering, and it's just, the gossip is taking over. Nobody, people don't mention that. Right, this times around, people don't mention gossip as they take it very lightly. Gossiping and stirring up something to make other people look bad to others. That's slander and gossip go hand in hand. The same thing with jealousy and envy. And I feel like a lot of the times in churches they don't speak about it. That's why it's widely used. And like I was saying, when you go to a small church, you notice it more, obviously, because it's more, it's less members, right? So you will hear about somebody, let's just say, this family perhaps are going through a divorce, right? And, when it's a small church, it doesn't just stay at that, right? And you hear everybody talking, oh, it's because, she wants to do his thing and he has to do this and the other. And then you go to Sunday service, right? And the pastor is just hammering down about something like that, right? To the point that you're like, oh my goodness, just take it down a notch because, it's so obvious. He's just talking directly to that couple, right? And it can happen with so many things, right? And I'm not saying I'm all for being transparent in the churches. I'm not saying to water it down, but immediately when the pastor has been fed on something that, he's using now to hammer on people. You can easily tell if you're like, because this is what I notice. And I'm sorry that I'm blabbering too much, but what I notice is when I join a new church, everything's good a lot of the times until you begin to serve, right? Because when you begin to serve, you begin to be part of inner circles, and you begin to hear people commenting, right? Whether it's like during rehearsal or during the office. I used to count, I used to be the treasurer for this church, and you will hear people just talking. And people were counting the money, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so glad so and so tied because I know they have a good job." And you're like, "I don't want to know anything like that." And like, why are people like, why are you even saying things, right? And it's, a lot of the times it's not that you gossip, but you get to be around people who like to gossip, and you cannot help but hear it, right? But I think a lot of the times this is what happens with pastors, right? Sorry, I thought I lost connection here. But with pastors, they hear a rumor, right? And perhaps maybe in their house they're hearing about somebody, um, a teenager who went drinking or something, and the next day you go to service and that's all the pastor is speaking about. And I think that's so horrible, to be honest, you guys, because it's obviously there's no like prudence and like some type of kind of like, why are you pointing fingers in public like that? If you know specifically about somebody struggling with something, how about you, instead of joining in the gossip now, because now you're using it for your sermon, right? Why don't you speak in private, right? Or pray for that person? But what happened to Donald Trump and this bishop being so open, like right there? And I know a lot of people are praising her for being bold, but manipulating the service to accuse somebody or to point fingers at somebody's decision has been done many times in churches. This is not the first time. I've seen it many times. And like I said, it's about, when it happens in a small church, it's gossip taking over, right? And one thing, this is my opinion. One thing is to see a woman that likes to gossip, right? But when you see a man, that's a whole nother level. It's just so bad to see a man that gossip. And what did they say? And what did she do? And like, let me tell you what happened. And, and like, when it comes to that, a lot of the times when people are so drowning into gossip, they don't give people the chance, right? They don't get to know somebody. They just assume and believe, because a lot of times when people gossip, they come, you only hear that person's side of the story, right? So you don't give people the chance. So let me just read to you briefly what happened here, now that my heater went down a little bit so people can hear me better. So the bishop who cited President Trump about social justice causes during Tuesday National Day of Prayer Service doubled down on her political charge sermon, saying she was trying to speak the truth. And she said, quote unquote, I wanted to speak the truth that I felt needed to be said. And how can it not be politicized? We are in a hyper-political climate. Episcopal Bishop Mariann Budde said on the news today. She said that she regularly cautions about the culture of contempt in which people rush to judgment about anything that somebody says. And she said, quote unquote, I was trying to speak the truth that I felt needed to be said, but I do it in a respectful kind of way as I could. And I also bring other voices into the conversation that had not been heard for some time. But see, that's the thing, right? People always say, I was just trying to do something good, right? But like, this is the issue that I have with this, right? I understand it's not every day that she's going to have the president in her service. I understand that. But what bothers me is when you're supposed to deliver a sermon, but you change it based on who's going to be in the audience. That's the problem that I have, because I told you guys, I have seen this in churches many times, right? People hear that, let's just say you have a podcast and you spoke about something that they perhaps disagree on. You show up to church, that's what the sermon is all about. And you're like, well, how do you know it's about? Because it's so obvious, okay? It is so obvious. One thing is for you to say, God revealed to me something, right? And I think if God's revealing to you something regarding somebody specifically, I think you should take that person aside and speak to them, right? Don't just berate them from the stage and say, I want to say this and you're in the wrong, I'm in the right, because in a moment, not only are you trying to embarrass somebody, right? You're trying to just force your opinion and just be a gossiper and a stalker, right? Watching what people do and using the platform, using the altar, to berate somebody based on opinion. But what we know about opinions, they tend to change, right? People usually want to give their opinion on everything. Right? Oh, why did she have a podcast? Why did she do this? Why did she do that? And then 6 months from now, they're like, I guess I'll start my own podcast. I guess I'll do my own YouTube channel. Then maybe you should just, when you see somebody doing something that, you probably thought about doing and you don't want to do it, maybe just be okay with that. Like, you don't have to berate somebody. Okay? This is the issue that I have, right? Regardless of what she has said, this bishop, I do believe 100%, I think she said it, she changed the sermon based on who was going to be in the audience. And it's almost like right in your face, I'm going to say it in my face. And that's what a lot of pastors do, okay? That's what a lot of pastors do. They go on stage, they hear something about somebody, they don't even know that person's first name, but they know perhaps what they look like, and they see them on service on Sunday morning, and they go on stage and go off on stage, and guys like, you're not supposed to teach about that, right? Because what do we know about public pointing the fingers, right? What do God say? When that happened, they were saying, this woman did this and this woman and that. And the book of Moses said we should do this to this lady. And then Jesus said, he wrote on the ground, he said, whoever is free of sin, cast the first stone. And then what happens? Then he said, where are your accusers? When everybody left, right? Because everybody felt convicted. I don't appreciate that this bishop changed the service just because, she was going to have that one. I don't know if he was going to go back again, but she wanted to have that opportunity now. If she wants to say that God told her to speak and give some type of warning to the president about the immigration issue and everything else and saying to have mercy, that's a different thing. But I think if that was the case, she should have spoken to him maybe backstage or something, right? Just as her opinion, but I don't know, like, I really don't know, like, I didn't appreciate that she did that. I know a lot of people are saying, well, somebody's being bold or something and praising her. The issue that I have with this is that, like I said, it happens in many churches. You can just see it like, oh my goodness, these people are not even like, let's just say you speak to somebody and you ask for prayer, right? Imagine that. And it happens a lot, believe it or not. It happens, let's say you're struggling with something. Let's just say you're struggling with something. You're about to, something's going to happen or something. You ask for prayer in the women's group, let's just say, right? And then, excuse me, instead of giving you, excuse me, let me get some water. Instead of giving you some type of grace, right? Because they always say, let me know if you need prayer. Okay, let me know if you need this. And then you say, oh, I'm struggling with this and the other. Here comes yourself, getting yourself to go to Sunday service and the pastor is just talking about your case. Oh, he might not say your name. Oh, but he might not do this and the other, but he goes specifically about that. Right in your face, exposing it. What do you think is happening? You're like, oh, everybody's talking about me now. Right? They all had the discussions about me, and now look at this, right? This public shame about everything, right? And you're like, well, yeah, I will never ask for prayer again, right? It's so crazy, but it happens a lot, you guys. So she said that she preached about gay and lesbian and transgender children who fear their life and even called directly on Trump, who sat expressionless as she spoke, to have mercy on immigrant families whose children fear that their parents will be taken away. Okay? The thing with this is like, one thing, like, I respect people's opinion. Obviously, I do a lot of content based on my opinion, right? But when it comes to something like this, I'm talking about, they were just looking at her like, are you serious, man? Like, I didn't appreciate that she changed everything just so that she can attack it that way. If you have a problem with some type of policy that he's implementing, I mean, the man visit your church. Have an opportunity to hand him a handwritten letter, right? Give whoever, like when people are visiting churches and you're like part of the whole production thing, right? You might be able to speak to security and say, can I just give this letter? You mind giving this letter to the president? Can I do this or the other? But like, to use it like that, and now you're trying to like feel like, oh, I said it right in his face, this and the other. It's like, come on, like, that's the issue. Like, I'm not even talking about who's right or who's not right when it comes to those but the topics that she was talking about, but like, to do it that way, that's the issue. Like, it's the house of the Lord. You're going to go there to preach about Jesus, right? And how about this opportunity to share the gospel of Jesus Christ? Perhaps not everybody in that congregation was safe, right? Do you think everybody that shows up to church is, has a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, right? That's the thing. And people miss it so much, right? The churches, they use it for something else all the time. It happens all the time. And it's worse in small churches, right? And like I said, one thing is to see a woman gossiping, but to see a man getting it, like, are you serious? Like, that is so distasteful, okay? Let me read to you guys some comments that people are saying, right? Somebody says, as much as I love Trump as president, this is a classic situation where he has to ignore it and let it go, and she will disappear. Okay, Trump's reaction has already given her more attention than she deserves. I agree, right? It was just so like, excuse me. I think, to be honest with you, it was so little. It was disrespectful. Nobody wants to go through something like that, right? You are celebrating your inaugural, right, presidential thing, and you are invited to. You're there for National Day of Prayer, and then you're gonna have this bishop do something like that. Like, come on, like, don't, like I say, if you wanted to speak to him more, give him a letter on his way out, give him an envelope and say, whatever, Secret Service, I just wanted to give you a letter, nice meeting you, things like that. But to like get on the mic and say, like, come on, right? Like, that's the thing that I have. And this is what somebody else is saying. Her job is to bring people to God, not her. She did not confront Biden on abortion, right? That's the other thing. She selectively went on TV she's been going to a press tour now, right? I saw her on the View, I think. She wants him to reach out to her after she confronted him in front of the congregation, where he couldn't reply. This is what I'm talking about. I'm glad that people are agreeing. And this is why it was important for me to like tell you what I was thinking about it. Because it's so distasteful, right? It's so distasteful. It's almost like I told you guys, you ask for prayer in the church and you think it's going to be confined because everybody's so nice. Let me know if you need prayer. Let's just say you say to somebody, hey, I'm having trouble paying my mortgage. Okay, I overspent, let's just say, during Christmas gift, and now I don't have any money. Here comes the pastor on Sunday morning. Stop overspending. That's why you can pay your mortgage now. And you're like, are you serious right now? Right? What do you think? Everybody's just like, oh, wow, they just went and told the pastor, right? And the pastor doesn't have self-control, right? Self-control, people believe it's all about the food. There's so many things self-control, the fruit of the spirit, entitles to. right? He couldn't help it. He got to go there and get the mic and have everybody say it, right? And then you hear everybody shaking their head. That's so true. Good job, Pastor. Way to go, right? Like, yeah, and then you're, why people don't come back anymore? Well, what do you think, right? It is so true what people are saying here in the chat. He didn't have a way to, like, say something. She should have, like, imagine how many people, like, that church was packed, right? She could have used the opportunity, and I know there were other preachers and all of that, could have used the opportunity to call people to repentance, right? Nobody wants to say, everybody wants, inclusive. And I'm not, like I'm saying, I'm not trying to point fingers, but it could have been so many options that she could have used that big opportunity that was given to her, right? But she wanted some type of fanfare. This is just my opinion about the whole thing. Because when you're doing something like that, you think you're trying to, like, glorify the Lord, but actually you're not really. It's just, this man is just sitting there like that he's just looking at her like, oh my goodness. He's looking at her like, I know you don't like me already. Like, it's like, just stick to what you were gonna say about God. No, National Day of Service, church packed and all of that, and now we gotta say how we feel about it, right? But when you change your whole sermon based on who's gonna be in the audience, that's when things begin to start not making sense to a lot of people. And perhaps you need to remember that in that verse, that the sentence that nobody wants to hear when they die, when Jesus returns, he said, wait, we cast out demons in your name. We did all of this in your name. And he's like, depart from me, I never knew you. Who cast demons? Who do this in the name of the Lord? Who serve people in the name of the Lord? It's not people that, that don't know the Lord. It's people from the church. In that verse, God is speaking to the people in the church, right? The people doing the works. So we always have to know our hearts, right? We always have to know. Is my sermon based on what I heard about somebody, what I heard them say on a channel, of what I heard them say on a podcast, or what I heard the friend of the friend said about them? Or is my sermon based on what God wanted me to share with the people that come here and gather every week? It's a simple question. So God knows the heart, and God knows the motivation behind it all. So let me know, guys, what you think about this. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening in the podcast. Have a good day, everybody. God bless.